A memo sent to all county clerks last month warned them about this loophole, and the State Board of Elections made it very clear any voter who tries to re-register under a different party affiliation now will not be able to vote in next month's primary. Kentucky law under qualifications for voting in a primary states any voter who withdraws registration after December 31st and re-registers as a voter with a different party affiliation shall not be eligible to vote in the upcoming primary. The memo also said the Attorney General's office is aware of violations. We reached out to the AG's office and to the State Board of Elections. We also reached out to the Secretary of State's team. Michael Adams' office says they have not seen evidence of voters trying this loophole, but if they do, they'll refer them for prosecution. With this WKYT Fact Check, I'm Kristen Kennedy.